Okay, hey everyone, my name is Grant Shelley. I am with a company called Hamina Wireless. I'm based out of Australia. Don't ask me about the cricket. I just wanted to talk today about what we do, and I'm going to try to not make this a sales pitch. I do have a technical background. My role is actually the head of technical operations for APAC. That does cover the India market as well, and so we are here with our partner. We've got a booth out the back. Please come and check us out if you get some time in the breaks. I'll just start my timer to keep me on track. So really quickly, I'm going to jump into the tool. Our website's got a whole bunch of information on there. We basically do two products. We've got a network design tool, and then we've got a site survey product as well, including hardware. If we've got time, we'll get into that. But what I want to do is I want to show you how the product works. This is our network planning tool. It's browser-based. It does run in the cloud. And I'm going to get started really quickly just by dragging and dropping a floor plan in. And while that loads in, I did notice there's a couple of talks on AI and ML today. And so I'm going to show you some of the technologies that we've got shipping in the Hamina Network Planner product today that take advantage of that. So if you just have a look in the bottom right, normally when you start a Wi-Fi design, you need to do a scale, and that helps with the Wi-Fi propagation of the antenna, whether it's an indoor and outdoor environment. So what we can do with our ML technologies is we can automatically detect the scale. And so in the bottom right there, you can sort of see we've got a little robot head, and it says, okay, we estimate that this is 10 meters, so we don't have to do any more scaling. So one less thing that the user has to do. The next thing that we can do is we can automatically scope the environment. So the system detects what is in scope, what is out of scope, and in this case, it's highlighted all of the interior area of this hospital. And so if we accept that, basically everything that is now greyed out is out of scope. So we're not going to see any propagation out there. And if we use the Auto AP Planner, no infrastructure would be placed in that environment, which is a huge time saver. Normally, you would have to trace that, the user would have to do it. And probably the biggest thing that we do today, and this is improving very, very quickly, is the ability to automatically detect walls. So normally when you're going to do a wireless design, you need to draw in the walls. And so usually you would want to get like a PDF or a CAD file. You might be able to do some automatic wall drawing properties. But even a really grainy PNG or a JPEG image, we can now automatically draw in the walls. And so if we click on this, we can click on AI detected walls, and you can see it actually highlights not only the walls but also the doors. And I can give it different attenuation characteristics, and so in this case we'll just go with the defaults. So we've got a heavy drywall, and then we've also got a wooden door. And so if we click auto apply, we've also got a 3D viewer here. We've within a couple of minutes designed a single floor hospital environment that's now ready for AP placement within that environment. So I think that that's a pretty big time saver. For most users, if they were going to be having to trace all those walls in, that might take them a couple of hours. Within Hamina, especially if you were doing like a multi-story environment, which we support, that is going to save you hours and hours of time. So the next step that we would take is, and this is the fun part really, is it's placing the access points. Now we could just use the auto plan AP function, but I prefer to manually place them. And that also shows you the speed that we've got within Hamina. Now, we've got our sponsors Arista in the room, so it'd be a bit rude if we didn't use some Arista APs, but we are a vendor-agnostic planning tool, so we do have other vendors in there, such as Cisco, Ruckus, HPE, Juniper, and the like. And I'm just going to choose the C460 when we find that again. It's down here. So I've got this. The other thing that you'll notice is we've got a 3D visualization of the antenna, which, for something like an omnidirectional antenna may not make a whole lot of sense. But if you go down to something like the W318, you can see what the propagation is going to look like. And we do also include things like the elevation and the azimuth in there as well, if you would like. So we'll go back to the C460. We've got a couple of options on the side here, so we can mount it in different orientations if we want. So someone was talking about stadium design before, so you could do like an under-seat design if you wanted to for specific access points. We've got different heights, different naming conventions, and then we've also got like the transmit powers. We also include IoT design in it as well. So if the access point supports BLE or Zigbee or now even ultra-wideband, we will include that in the propagation model, so you can use that for, with ultra-wideband, the big thing is all about RTLS and location accuracy. You could design for that as well. And then we also map the PoE draw as well. So particularly important if you were going from an upgrade, maybe like a Wi-Fi 5 network to like a Wi-Fi 7, the power draw is going to be a lot more, so you need to think about, do I need additional switching infrastructure for that PoE++ type of scenario? And we can place an access point in there, and you'll notice that the propagation is almost instantaneous. So if I just sort of jump around the map here and start to place access points, you'll see that there's not really any waiting. The propagation happens pretty much instantaneously. And so we've got a thing that we call within Hamina called the time to results. And what we don't like is that the user having to sort of wait at any point in time. And so in this case here, we've designed a pretty comprehensive 3D design in a couple of minutes. We've got our AP numbering on the side there, so we've got 22 access points, and we're almost ready to go. The next step we might take is we might want to include some switching, and so we can get pretty complex here. So we can put in IDFs and MDFs. We can also have things like cable risers. Again, if you've got multi-story facilities and you want to route the cables through certain parts of the building, but we'll just stick with a single story here, and we're just going to stick with a single switch. We define the switch here, so we might define it as a 24-port switch, and we might just give it like, just a 500-watt power budget. And if we drop that in the environment, we can actually see straight away the switch is red, and it tells us that we're actually not going to meet our power budget. So again, we might have gone through this scenario of we're going to upgrade to some new Wi-Fi 7 access points, but the switch doesn't have the power draw, to be able to support that. And we can click on this and we can actually see, what the cabling lengths are, what the access points are, where they're routed to, where they're connected to, and all that type of stuff as well. So we might look at this and say, okay, let's actually upgrade this to a 1200-watt switch, and now everything is happy. The next step we probably want to take is we've got these purple dotted lines here, and that is our cable routing. So by default, Hamina will just right angle it as fast as it can to the switch, but that's probably not very realistic. So what we're going to do is we'll tidy that up with what we've got called cable trays here. And so what we'll do is we'll draw a cable tray through the environment, and you can sort of see there we get the outline of the cable tray. Zoom in here. So I'll run it through the environment, and you can see how easy it is to use. Like, I'm literally just using this on my MacBook. I don't have any mouse or keyboard or anything like that. It's all pretty intuitive, pretty easy to use, and you can already start to see how the cables are starting to get sucked into that cable tray. And if we zoom back out, now it's done. So we don't have cables now routing through the middle of the courtyard, which is highly unrealistic. Like, that's just not going to happen. The other thing that I've done here is I've set the regulatory domain as India. So you'll notice that we've got these 3 different bubbles here, which indicate the 2.4, the 5, and the 6 gigahertz radios. Now, I was told by Shri yesterday that 6 gigahertz has just been given the green light for India, so we will obviously update that. But for now, they would be switched off, and I think realistically for a deployment, you would probably do that anyway until it is properly deployable. So we've got our 2.4 radios here, and we've got our 5. What we might want to do as well is we might want to add some capacity. So I'm just going to very quickly just draw a big box over this environment. And I'll select the capacity here. And you can design the capacity based on actual devices. So in this case, we might not want to actually use iPhones, or maybe we'll put a couple of iPhones in. But we might say, look, there's actually 100 Android devices. So we're going to be pretty complacent here with the number of clients. And we get a second row of bubbles underneath the AP, and that indicates whether there's any clients on the 2.45 or the 6 gigahertz radios. And then we get a little graph breakout down the bottom here that says we've got 8 2.4 radios, we've got 22.5, and then we've got no on 6. The reason we've only got 8 on 2.4 is because we've automatically disabled some of those radios for CCI, so we can switch that on and off within the tool itself. The last thing that I would just want to show quickly is we've got our client experience view here. So we can define this based on the client device. So in this case, we'll use an Android phone. And you can see here as we move the device around, it gives us an idea of how the client might be able to roam through the environment. And we get some nice little technical details here, like the MCS rate, the spatial streams, you know, the channel width, things like that. And we can do some more complex elements here, so we can affect things like the noise floor or the client height, which might be critical for environments where they're quite noisy, like warehousing and things like that. The last thing I'm just going to leave everyone with is QR code. If you do sign up on the QR code, we will give you a 1-month Planner Plus license. If you don't have time to get it, please see us in the other room there. And if you want to sign up, we'll give you a full license for 1 month. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.